Lee, because so much of it hinged on what you're talking about, the public response, judges appointed by conservative Republicans describing the policy as brutal and likening it to child abuse and trauma. There's reason, I mean, all those things are still in place, right? We are, whether we're exactly the same country, I think is an open question. But we still have an ability, if we see something that crosses the line, to do something. Back to the kinds of people who are on the board. There's Holman and there's Miller. There's also Kristi Noem, who has been tapped to lead DHS, and Matt Gaetz at DOJ. None of those appointments have the ability to deprive the country of the breaks, which are independent judges, which is public outrage, which is journalists like Jacob, who were, make no mistake, invited into the facility to see the policy. But what on a sort of logistical level are they talking about in terms of having to display some competence that we've never seen? I mean, how do you move millions of people around the country to send them anywhere?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I think there will be logistical difficulties. You know, whether they've been working on it for 4 years and preparing, they say they have, we'll have to see, but there definitely will be logistical difficulties. But I think, you know, one thing I would say is right now is a time for everyone to take stock of where they're going to be and not to despair. And you know, there are big things we can all do, but then I think people need to just think, well, I can do one little thing. Yeah. I always worry, especially with young people, that they think, well, this is too big for me to do anything about, so I'm going to sit it out. Just do any little thing. If you're a lawyer, a young lawyer, take one case, one person who's faced removal back to danger, or tutor a young child who's trying to learn English, or just something, or join a march. I mean, I think we really need to not despair, and there are serious judges on the bench who will call out illegality. You know, we're being clear-eyed about what we can accomplish in courts, but we're going to try, but it also is going to take that national effort. I think any civil rights lawyer throughout time will tell you the courts are one part of it, but it takes a national movement. And so there are going to be harsh things that are going to happen that we're not going to stop, and we're clear-eyed about that. But there are egregious things like family separation where we all need to come together and say, well, wait, that's not what we meant about immigration reform.
I mean, the other piece is that there are people in the government who come face to face with people impacted. Let me play another clip from the film and show folks a couple of them.
When did you become aware of separations?
Our field staff started to notice very young kids, tender age, anyone below 5. That's kind of unusual, right? Because most often when you have a kid that young, they're traveling with a parent. Jim Dela Cruz was the supervisor of all the federal field staff. He had his team keep a spreadsheet. It was growing with the number of kids.
One of the issues I raised to Scott Lloyd as a concern is we'd run out of beds for babies. We were seeing so many babies, but the babies can't tell you they were separated. We were very concerned that some children's separations would be permanent because the parents would be removed from the United States through deportation. So the families had made the journey together, but now the children would remain in the United States while the parents were returned to home country.
These are state-created orphans.
These are families separated by action of the federal government as a tool of immigration policy.
I mean, it boggles the mind that government workers had to take that tragic reality and send an email that Jonathan White had to send that email that said, we're seeing so many babies, but the babies can't tell you they were separated. How do you find the parents of a baby?
Right. I mean, so that's one of the problems is the judge commented that it seems like the federal government keeps better track of property than children. That was one of the major parts of this, is that we had no records. So we are still searching for some families now, 6 years later. The Trump administration gave us just these records, we think the parent might be in this country, or maybe they're at this address. So we created a steering committee with 3 NGOs, the Women's Refugee Commission, Kids in Need of Defense, and Justice in Motion, with a great law firm, Paul Weiss, and they helped look for all the families and did unbelievable work. But sometimes it required just on the ground, going town to town for looking for these parents. And so now we have little children who have been without their parents for 6 years. They will not even remember their parents. And some of the parents who are coming back now, there's no relationship anymore, and that is so heartbreaking to see the parent trying to rebuild the relationship. And everyone talks about the children's trauma, and that's understandable, and that's right, but also the parents. Imagine a parent where the first thing the child comes back and says to you is, "Mommy, didn't you love me enough to keep me? Why didn't you fight for me?"